Coach, coming off the 3-9 season, could you kind of sum up the importance of this class being your first full class that you've had a full year to work on?
I think it's a great point, and it comes down to this. It's kind of like as coaches, we're all so excited to get into winter conditioning because we know our roster so much better. We know our players. Last year we were trying to memorize their names, and if they were a linebacker or a safety or a corner or a safety, and it's just, you know your roster so much better. It's kind of like this in recruiting. Our coaches had been in their areas in the past. Some of them were new areas, but they were able to get in there and cultivate in the spring. They were able to cultivate during the summer, and it just, I think we got a hold on who we felt we could or wanted in our program. You know, I'm a big believer in it's not so much what their ranking or what their offer list is. It's are they right for us, and can they play championship football? I think that was a big part of it. You mean like a?
Well, I mean, you have like a basic philosophy, and then from then how much it changes year to year.
Yeah, I would say our philosophy is, you know, it really doesn't matter who's recruiting them. If we feel that they can play winning football at the position that we project them at, let's go get them. I've never made a kid play a position he didn't want to play. On the flip side of it, I've recruited many kids with the idea that they're going to play a different position. I will say that. And then, you know, one of the great things I've learned in this business is, you know, the words undersized, under-recruited, and underdeveloped are three really good words because those are just opinions. You can see a kid that might be slight in weight, but you realize what Ben Herbert can do with them. That's undersized. Under-recruited is just if you're working against good competition, maybe where the kid is located, maybe he hasn't been on a national stage, that's under-recruited. Underdeveloped is what kind of program does he come from? You know, if a kid's been in a program where they've been having 8 a.m. lifts since he's in 8th grade and he's gotten to a certain level, he may not have that much more of a ceiling. So there's certain things you can work across. I thought it was great. I love the star system. And I will say this, I don't mean this as a I had a reaction the other day, which I never really thought of. When I point out things, all I'm doing is stating history. I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody's abilities or taking away what they do as a job. But in the Super Bowl, I had 4 guys play. I had a running back that was a 3-star, a defensive end that was a 3-star, a quarterback that was a 2-star, and a safety that was a no-star. So we had 2 3-stars, a 2-star. That's the guys that I've coached, I've worked with. In the Super Bowl, the number of 5-stars on the field were 3. The number of 4-stars on the field were 19. The number of 3-stars on the field were 33. The number of 2-stars on the field were 17. The number of 1-stars on the field were 1. And get this, the number of 0-star rankings from their high school ranking to playing in the Super Bowl were 15. 5 times the number of 5-stars. And all I want you to understand, and it was kind of, I know John Schneider very well, and this year's Super Bowl was kind of back when I was at Wisconsin. I modeled certain things after the Packers when they got really hot as far as having tight ends and linebackers and big athletic bodies. You know, the Seahawks are on top of the world right now, and when their rankings came out of their draft class, I remember when they drafted Russell, a lot of people, I think Mel Kiper gave him a C-. All the experts gave him a D or a C, and look where they're at now. So it's about the mission and the path that we're on and the philosophy that we believe in that'll get us where we want to be.
Hey, Brett, could you touch on 2 topics?
Yeah.
One, you've already touched a little bit, the defense, how important it was to get some speed and playmakers. And secondly, keeping that pipeline to Florida going, getting a handful of guys from out of that state.
Yeah, first defensively, you know, because of the timing of our whole staff a year ago, we really relied more than I've ever seen before, and it was great, but we relied on some relationships that had started before we ever came here. You know, I relied heavily on some kids that we had recruited when I was at Wisconsin. Jim and Sam came in and relied heavily upon some kids from Tennessee, Randy on some kids from Miami, Charlie, you know, so it's kind of like one of those deals. Michael Smith from players that he was involved in, and across the board, Joel got on guys. It was just one of those, okay, who can we get our hands on that could play SEC football? Now this year, we knew that we had to get good in certain areas. One of them was in the back end, defensive corners and corners that could maybe be safeties. Linebackers was an important point of emphasis, and then offensive linemen in particular. We felt we needed to get more big bodies that can play the type of football that we want to do. So that part was huge. As far as keeping Florida open, it's something I believed in since I started. You know, I went down there for the first time in 1993. Was when I met Randy. Every practice, it's kind of a unique environment. If someone wants to do a story on Florida recruiting, it's really kind of a unique thing that you got spring ball. You see the same coaches at every school. You all go watch the same players. It's really an evaluation thing. I think Randy's done a tremendous job, and Charlie, when he was here, and what our staff has done is recruiting the right type of player, someone that can fit in here to Arkansas, that knows what that means and understands, that this isn't Miami, this isn't Fort Lauderdale, this is a different environment here, and being able to survive in that. So I really think that when I took over, I really felt we needed to be strong in Arkansas. We're going to recruit the snot out of Texas. We're going to do great in obviously in-state, but the surrounding states in general. And the next big area for us has to be Florida, and thankfully we've been able to keep that going.
Yeah. Hey.
Oklahoma is an area, and you know what? It was, and it's my fault as a head coach. Our lead recruiter in Oklahoma, Sam, but I had him national recruit offensive lineman, so that's 100% on me. It's a tough area to get into. I think the area, especially adjacent to it, makes it a short trip here. We need to recruit, and I have to be able to allot time for that to happen.
Hey, Brett, how you doing? Talk about the in-state class. There's only 5 guys. You know, depending on Arkansas, you can have a lot of guys, or maybe not so many. How'd you feel about the class, the in-state class?
Well, I can't create numbers. You know, I was excited because I think the players that are here are very, very good. You know, to start off with Bijan, and to go to Juwan, I think was the next kid to commit. Krause, obviously, Josh Lydell. Who am I missing? There's one more.
Jay Call.
Oh, and Jay Call. I think they all got, all of them are a little bit different. Some might be a little bit more ready-made, but the good news is, in my opinion, the classes coming up have a lot of talent, and that's the way I think Arkansas has been. I looked at their signings from a year ago, or from the last several years, and it kind of fluctuated a little bit. Some numbers will be real high, and it looks like a low year might be 4 or 5, a high year might be 10, and whatever that number is, if they can play SEC winning football, we gotta get them, and that's a big part. I think Barry Lundy has done an outstanding job. I think our coaches understand it. Bobby Allen's always in his ears, but I think our coaches, I can't appreciate enough what they, as soon as there's a player from Arkansas at their position, they evaluate him 100 times over, and make sure that we get a fair and just evaluation on it, and understand that if that kid can play, we need to get him here, and even fair on the side of getting him here. One of the neat things for me is being in the southern part of Arkansas and going down there and recruiting and seeing great players, and how much of an outpour we get from the community to I'm not saying what has happened or hasn't happened in the past, just that people are excited to see Arkansas down there and getting some of those guys that they think can play big-time ball.
Brett, how much was the potential for true freshman playing time a factor in getting some of these kids, especially out of Miami?
I would say that across the board, we talk about it at every position. Every kid has a certain perception or idea. I think as coaches, we tend to pigeonhole guys in. We think he can play right away, but there's been so many times during my career, and I think our coaches would attest to the same, where you think this kid's going to be all this and all that, but once they're here, maybe he doesn't learn as well as you want him to, or maybe he's not as physical, maybe he doesn't see things as well. On the flip side of it, you got a kid that's never really honed into just one position, and he's been playing basketball, he's been throwing yard darts in his spare time, and all of a sudden, he's concentrating on football, and he's a good football player. So I think the things about Miami, and you can ask Randy. Randy has lived it for a long time, and other coaches that we've been. The thing about Miami is you get certain kids, their ceilings are just so high. Like the young man I talked about, Anthony Brown, to go from 219 to 248 in like 3 months. I mean, he's just genetically got something going in the right direction there, and the sky's the limit when he hones in on something very, very specific.
Coach, JoJo Robinson, the guy that took it all the way down till today, can you elaborate a little more on the recruiting process with him and actually getting him? And also, do you have a wide receiver that has that kind of burst that he has? He's gifted.
He is very, very gifted. Again, I'd give credit to Randy, Miami Northwestern. I remember Randy and I went in there on one of our bye weeks, and he was walking into school, and I think he played with the AD and high school ball with the football coach as a defense coordinator, and then you see the rapport that he has at Miami Northwestern. It's been a great school for a long time. JoJo was a guy that had interest. I didn't know, because at the time he had a lot of different options and all that goes into it. He decided he wanted to come and take a visit. He came with his mom and his uncle. I think they had a certain perception, just like every kid does, that if you're not from Arkansas, you're going to have this idea or the stigma in your mind of Arkansas until you get here. And I think the great thing about Northwest Arkansas is once they get here, they're like, wow, this is a nice spot. The people are home. The people are warm. It's not the environment that I've come from. Not that that's not bad. It's just different. And if a kid wants different, we got a chance. I go back to Denver Kirkland. We gave him something different. I've heard him say over and over again, the reason he came, we were something different. I think for JoJo, we were different. He was a kid that took that last visit. We didn't know where he was going. I got a hold of him, and he said he prayed on it, and God told him to come. So I thank God for that message. I think the greatest thing that he has is as good as you saw him on film there with Michael Smith, with Ben Herbert in our weight room. It could be something nice. Yes.
I know the focus today is on recruiting, but the last 2 months around here, what are you getting feedback from Ben about what's going on as far as development?
Well, I think first and foremost, whenever I see Ben Herbert and he's like gliding in the hallways, he's not really putting his feet on the ground. He's just on heaven. Just the attitude that our guys have carried into the weight room. We had a few coming to Jesus meetings where kids had to understand what exactly we want. One of the things we started doing is, there might be 60 guys in a workout group. If one guy's not there on time, if it's 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. or 2 p.m., it doesn't matter. If one guy's not there, the whole workout leaves because we understand that it's going to take 11 at every given time on every given play, and we want to make our guys understand that for us to work together, everybody has to be together. And pretty stiff penalties. I've removed a couple guys from the program. I removed 3 guys a week ago. I removed Bubba Jenkins, Nathan Crouch, and Corliss Marshall for a week just because of some things that I know they needed to understand. If they don't do it right, they're not going to be around. And if you take football away from a kid for a period of time, usually it makes a lot of sense to them. I think that the fact that we don't have 6 guys, there was a couple guys that are no longer here, and I'm not, AJ Turner, Ray Buchanan, Mike Tavares, Nate Holmes, Melvin Harfield, DKT, all those guys had a chance to be here and not be here, and I think the factor that I love is the guys that are here are very, very, very hungry. They're very, very, I won't say upset, but they're not looking to go 3-9 again. I'll say that.
Coach, could you talk a little bit about the impact of Rafe committing early and pretty much becoming another recruiter for your program?
Rafe did become another recruiter for us. Again, but that's what you want out of a quarterback. Quarterbacks want great receivers. Quarterbacks want great linemen. He's a very dynamic kid, engaging. He's been around it. His dad's been a coach, and you can see the home that he grew up in. That means a lot. I think also just for Jim and I, and Jim can attest to this more than I, that Jim's our quarterback coach. He's our offensive coordinator, and we kind of went through a little association by disassociation. I don't know if that's a great way to say it, but we wanted to make sure he was right for us and vice versa and all the moving parts, and we kind of came to a decision one day, and he did on Rafe's terms that this is where he wants to be. He sent me a text or an email, I can't remember, I remember I got it in the middle of the day because it was rumored that somebody had come to a school and he might be looking, and he just basically said some things to me that, as a head coach, I'll always have that in my heart, about what he wants to do and what he wants to accomplish. And quarterbacks think that way, at least the good ones do. And I think he's a valuable part and a great reason why I think him and Jared Cornelius, they've been attached at the hip out here every day. And that just shows you a quarterback that wants it.
But I think I'm correct in saying that you had 27 spots available. You only filled 24. Do you have any plans immediately for those 3, or are you going to just wait and see what happens?
Not to be disrespectful, but I didn't have 27. I could have gone to 26, but that was with an appeal and a bunch of other stuff. There are some of those names I just read off. There's certain things I can't get those till June, so it actually will help our class grow a year from now. But we wanted to get to, we thought 22 would be a great number. 23, 24, 25 would be outstanding. But obviously we lost out on a couple kids today. Wish them the best of luck to move forward, but I can't say enough about it. To be a 3-9 football team, somebody threw me out a stat that there was only 2 teams in the ranking system that had a losing record that were ahead of us, and that's all great, but I don't really care where we rank today. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to care where we're ranked in 3 years with these guys, in 2 years, 1 year. But I go back, you learn through life. I remember my first recruiting class as a head coach. We were in the Big Ten Conference, which had 12 teams. I know it takes a while to figure out, but that was, and we were ranked, I believe, 11th out of 12th. And I was furious, just having a bad day, and I thought we had a great class. And my ID at the time said something to me really, really great. He goes, "Hey, I don't care where you're ranked today, but in 5 years from now, let's talk." And that team was the first one to win me a Big Ten championship. And I think that's a great example where we're going. I find the greatest compliment in the world that you have a Big Ten team that can't win a Big Ten title and they come and take one of mine. To me, that's a great compliment to what this program is, and it makes me have a great faith in what we can become.